Broadcasting from the Red Bed Plains, you are now listening to Through the Prairie Smoke.
Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 3 of Through the Prairie Smoke with one of your hosts, Tyler.
And Dustin.
The other host.
That's me.
We're going to jump right back into talking about the Fox sisters. How long are we going to talk about this?
3 hours.
Okay. All right. We have had a little bit of free time before we started recording here, so we've already started our smokes. I've got my pipe again. You've
got the cigar again.
Mm-hmm.
Yours smells heavenly.
I think so too. It tastes pretty good as well. Let's talk about it, shall we?
Do it.
So, it's after Labor Day when we're recording here. I don't know when you'll listen to it. But for the unofficial start of fall, I'm celebrating with Cornell and Deal's Autumn Evening.
It's a perfect evening for that.
It is.
Because tonight, here in wonderful Oklahoma, we have a little unusual cold spell. What is it? Probably about 86, 87 degrees right now?
Right
Maybe
here in
less
the
than that.
garage, it's 84.
84 in the garage, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We don't have the loud fan going, too, so maybe we'll notice a difference with our preview listeners that we're so grateful for. Anyway, Autumn Evening. Before lighting this, you just smell it, and I think it smells like maple-covered Long John. That's what it smells like to me.
Yeah, the minute you said that to me, that was the first thing that came in my mind.
Yeah.
But it's very pleasant.
So let me read the back here. This is for you, Barry. Our proprietary red Virginia Cavendish is delicately cased with natural maple, resulting in our best-selling aromatic blend. Autumn Evening's captivatingly nuanced complexity will stimulate the smoker, while those nearby will be entranced by the inviting fragrance. We don't have a sponsor.
Is that copyright?
I'm sure it's copyrighted. Well, it's fair use. Look, it's essentially an ad.
Yeah. I thought we weren't doing plugs.
We're not doing plugs.
Okay.
I should have prepared for that reading because it was halting and terrible. Read your cigar synopsis.
So I'm looking at the cigar label right now that I currently took off of it. So,
because we've been doing this a little bit.
Yeah. The label doesn't have any description on it except for it is AJ Fernandez. It's a Belles Artes. It's a Habano.
Ooh.
It's nice.
Is it pressed?
It is box press, yeah. I just don't know how I feel about box press.
Well, they don't roll off the table that way.
True. So the only thing I don't like about them is they don't burn even. They have trouble,
I can see that.
I mean, but it's one of my favorite cigars, so I just live with it. You know what I'm saying? I was
noticing that it seems spicier than what you normally smoke.
The smell? I really like Habanos. I think they're right there in the middle.
Okay.
Of the strong side being a Maduro, and then Connecticut being the light side. You know what I mean? So I think it's like a perfect medium for me, anyways.
All right.
Well, that was the smoke.
Let's go through it.
Let's do it.
All right. So the last episode we just talked about the Fox sisters performing at Corinthian Hall, and it was a wild success. But it's funny how the timeline matches up, and we're reading different documents here, and we sometimes lose track of people. But I think this happens before Corinthian Hall, like right before it. Because I think Kate goes by Eliab Capron with Margaret's consent, Kate goes to live with him and his wife at their boarding house in Albany, New York. And he is convinced that she is the stronger medium and wants to take her out to run these tests and get her away from, I guess, the influence of the other girls. And I say girl, Leah's not a girl. She's a woman. But when this is happening, Kate is 12. This was in September 1849. There are tests with multiple women at this boarding house. And these women are staying with 12-year-old Kate. And these knocks and these things that are happening, the ones who have done frequent sittings, they are recognizing the raps. Like the hard raps belong to a specific entity, and the soft raps belong to a specific entity. So they know who they're talking to, according to these witnesses. Also, it's important to note this is women hanging out together. So they were also putting the, are they making any noise? Because she doesn't have to be properly dressed for polite society all the time. So it's like these women are comfortable together. They're not going through all the show stuff. So it's like in various states of dress, essentially. And during these sessions, women's fancy hairpins would be removed and placed in somebody else's top knots. Sometimes you'd hear music being played. A lot of people were convinced by this. They were just fascinated. But anyway, that is happening at some point while Leah and Maggie, along with Amy Post, isn't that right? That's when the Corinthian Hall thing happens. Yep. So that's where Kate is while that's going on. So back to Corinthian Hall. Huge success. Newspapers had articles written ready to ridicule and talk about the complete fake that it was, but they didn't run any of those stories because it was a huge success. Many people were convinced. One of the newspapers wrote that the girls were totally exonerated. And that's an exaggeration, of course. There was still room for doubt. But after that, the girls moved in with the Post family. And so who are the Posts? Amy and Isaac Post are Quakers. In that Quaker movement here in America, there was a large organization called the Society of Friends, but there was actually a schism that happened, and Isaac Post became involved with that schism. And Amy, marrying Isaac, who was actually married to her older sister before she died.
Really? I really didn't know that.
Well, yeah, if we want to talk about that briefly, Isaac Post married Amy's older sister and had a couple of kids. But when she passed, Amy kind of came in to help the kids along and then married.
Oh, okay.
That's why they got married. Well,
I think that probably happened more than you think.
Of course. I'm sure that was very common. Yeah. And how do you meet people? It's not like there's online dating. It's just, like, isn't this convenient? You already live here. Let's get married. So anyway, Amy and Isaac get married. They have more children, but two of them pass. I think that's one of the reasons why Amy is so interested in, well, both of them probably, Amy and Isaac both are so interested in spirit communication. They want that connection. We probably spoke about that in the last episode. Because when the spirits went quiet, they had lost that connection. So it was... the spirits being quiet meant so many different things. Anyway, after Corinthian Hall, the ladies stay with the Post family. They stay 3 days and then go back home to Rochester. And that is when Kate and Margaret meet back up with them in Rochester.
In the 3 days, that the reason they're there for 3 days is because it's kind of like a hideout. Because people are now trying to call upon them to do private sittings.
Okay.
And demonstrations. And so they're exhausted, you know, from all this. So it's kind of like a little getaway before they return to Rochester. And then Margaret comes up from Hydesville and Kate comes back from Albany.
Apparently Margaret was completely unaware about Corinthian Hall. She did not know it was going to happen. She did not know it had happened. She learns about it after the fact. And that's kind of the first big victory, right?
Yep.
Like, we've done our performance. We met with these committees over 3 days. Everyone is satisfied, and we don't have to talk to y'all anymore. We proved our point. Immortality is real. You can talk to spirits. We're doing it. So, obviously, a lot of people are interested. And so, who gets the idea for private seances? Why do they start happening?
One of the main reasons they didn't want to do any more public and why they felt like it was a big victory and that they were done is because they didn't want to subject themselves to the criticism. Because, I mean, it
the
was a
poking
lot
and
for
the prodding.
the ladies to go through.
Yeah,
so,
and Kate's 12 at this time.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, this is a lot. And so they kind of felt like this is a victory. We've proven ourselves. We're not scam artists. We're not charlatans. You know, we're nothing that you are accusing us of being. So this is a good victory, and they think they're done, but little do they know that this is opening floodgates.
This really is the beginning
and because now public curiosity is just almost to the point of overwhelming now, but there's just a lot of holes, so
Sure.
you kind of have to fill it in yourself. But I really never came across anything that says, oh, this is why we started doing private sittings.
But of course, people are still interested. You can't come down and say, oh, hey, we've been talking to people beyond the veil, or yes, it is spirits to them. And you can't just be like, yep, they're out there. See ya. Well, how do you know? Who's out there? Who are you talking to? There are so many people interested, they start doing private seances. They're not interested in the big spectacle so much anymore. And the first big sitting and the first time money is received happens November 28th, 1849.
Yep.
So what's the story on that?
So, a judge by the last name Summerfield and 6 of his friends call upon Leah and basically want to do a sitting. They have a friend, because we'll go into a little story here, Mr. Duncan McNaughton.
How's he described?
As extreme infidel in religious matters.
How about that?
That's a direct quote.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into that story a little bit. This is pretty cool. At 8:00 p.m. that night, they sit down at a table. The first thing, and these are quotes in the book. So this is what the spirits said.
This is Leah's book, or this is?
This is Leah's book, and
Okay.
this is the missing link in modern spiritualism.
All right.
Upon sitting at the table, they spell out, "My dear son, repeat the Lord's Prayer." That's kind of a cold start.
Yeah.
You would think, you sit down at a table and this is what is said or comes through. So, of course, everybody at the table is like, they're talking to you? They're talking to me? Who are we talking
Who's
to?
the son? Yeah.
Who? So upon everybody asking who, another message comes through. And the best way I can describe this as the tone that is written out in the message is giving a Scottish accent tone. I don't have the actual quote, but it does say, basically it's coming from a poor old mother.
A poor
but
old
in a
Scottish mother.
accent, yeah.
Okay.
And
Mr. Duncan McNaughton.
funny enough, he is described as a tall gentleman with a strong Scottish accent, but with the last name given. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So now it's pretty clear that this message is being directed towards McNaughton. And within that confusion, the same question is asked again. But McNaughton is refusing to answer. He's being urged real heavily by the friends to answer. He was disgusted with the whole thing. He believed that he was being tricked, that he was being played by his friends.
Sure.
For entertainment.
Like, oh yeah, the one Scottish guy here, you're making the ghost have a Scottish accent.
Yeah, because out of the 6 friends that the judge brought, basically they had to drag him there. He was not going to come. So with him not responding, there was no more activity happening. And after a little more persuasion, he starts to mumble the first line of the Lord's Prayer. And he's clearly struggling with it
Sure.
because he has not said it.
He's lapsed.
Like probably since
Yeah.
he was younger. And so a burst of laughter comes out amongst the friends. So that's when the spirits direct all of them to start saying the Lord's Prayer. So everybody kind of joins in on the Lord's Prayer. When they start saying the Lord's Prayer, manifestations start happening around the room. Tables around the room start rocking. Chairs, same thing with the chairs. There's knockings being heard on the walls and on the floor. Several items in the room are starting to just kind of vibrate and make noise. But then the table starts to lift a little bit and tilt, and it tilts until it gets onto one leg, and it starts doing a little dance.
Okay.
And so
During the Lord's Prayer.
while they're
While they're reciting
saying the
it.
Lord's
Yeah.
Prayer,
Uh-huh.
and McNaughton loses his shit. And this is quoted. he yells out, "Extraordinary, extraordinary." I begin to understand it now. If I could do a Scottish accent.
Well, let's not try.
I can't do it. Basically, this is when he realizes this is his mother that's coming through.
And she's deceased then.
Correct. The rest of the night kind of plays out. They don't go into too much detail of other things, but other messages come through, and it goes on for, because I think they sat down, like I said, at 8 o'clock, and it commences about 10 o'clock. So about 2-hour session that they sit in there. Now, this is notable. This is the first time they're offered money.
Yeah.
For what happened. And Leah kind of describes in the book that she is kind of embarrassed. So,
this meant something more to her.
Yeah.
And so accepting money, do you think she felt it was dirty?
Yeah. And she made the comment, the money that they had been living off of since she had stopped doing private lessons was coming off of David, her brother, back in Hydesville. The farm was doing, that's how they made their living, and then they would just send money.
And to recap and go back a little bit, she lived in this townhouse, but then they moved because things got crazy. And then they moved again into a very new house.
Yeah. Where they're currently at is the new house.
Yeah.
But I don't think they own it. They
rent it.
Also, during this description of taking money, she states that she's getting money from David. Well, that money is running thin. And so her full intention is actually to move back to Hydesville and live with him on the farm. But boy.
So do you think this...
Are they wrong?
Yeah, I guess that just changes the trajectory then.
Yes.
Because they're going to go back to the farm, but and it's like, oh...
Wait,
we can get money for doing this?
And it also kind of jumping back in episode 2, if you listened, I hope you did. Tyler, I think, references the Corinthian Hall and how much it was a person to get in. But you can't say that that's the first time they took money, because the money didn't go to the girls. The money went to
the theater.
Yeah. So this is the first time that they're actually taking money upon themselves.
For themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. So we get into spring of 1850. It's April 1850, and they go to Albany. The spirits are getting more demanding that we need to spread the word. So we go hang out with friends in Albany. And in my notes, I don't have friends written down, but we know Capron's up there. So, and specifically traveling to Albany, it's Maggie, Kate, Leah, Margaret, and Calvin is with them. And we're doing some demonstrations for friends and friends' acquaintances and things like that.
They're going to do like a public performance there as well at a hall.
Delavan Hall?
Yeah.
So who's this Dr. Stats character?
They run into issues with him. He is not happy that they're there. He's not happy with what their message that they're spreading. He believes it to be a blasphemy against the Holy Scriptures. He applies to the courts trying to get the ladies arrested. And in doing this, there's a big group that consists of a few judges and lawyers that decide that before any arrests are going to be made, that they want to witness these events themselves.
The newspapers announce they're going to be at this hall, house, whatever it is, for this demonstration. So 17 judges and lawyers get to witness a demonstration.
Correct.
And they're convinced. Like, we're not arresting them. So no arrests are made. And they are taking money at this time for these seances, right?
That is correct, yeah. She states that their expenses are getting high.
Sure, they're traveling.
They're traveling and their stays and food. They start to charge $1 a person for private seances with a single person and $5 for 2 or more people. Their trip to Albany, the importance of that is it's their first show on the road.
Yeah, their first professional gig.
Yep. And their first run-in with trouble. So,
it's not quite true, but yeah, they had at Corinthian Hall. Yeah. They had to be escorted out of there.
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
First allegations, I guess, that are serious allegations. Basically, another victory
Sure. Convinces judges and lawyers, for whatever that's worth.
They decide that their time there is done, so they're going to head back to Rochester. And during their time spent in Albany, they've gotten some telegraphs from some friends that are requesting that they stop in Troy and do some demonstrations or seances.
Sure.
They didn't originally plan to stop in Troy, but they do. Upon getting to Troy, they run into another hiccup.
A social group is trying to stop them from getting into town. Is that right?
Yes, and it's mainly the women.
Other women.
They're upset. The normal stuff that everybody's been getting angry about, but also they're saying that, my husband wouldn't be so interested in y'all if you were guys sitting at that table.
So this is the first time where there is this gender thing.
Yeah, but this is also the first time that she starts talking about the theory of toe and knee wrapping, like they're making the noises with their knees and their toes.
This is the first time that accusation has happened.
While they're in Troy, this lady says that she can do what they're doing by doing those things with their toes and their knees.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's doing demonstrations for people, basically trying to say, hey, I can do this. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they're nothing.
It's not the same.
Not the
it's
same
clearly
at all.
not the same.
Clearly not the same. But ultimately, those theories are tested, and they do not come up with any sufficient evidence that that's happening. Can't prove it. So basically, another triumph. This time, though, they've impressed a lot of people, and they decide, hey, we're gonna honor you with a band. So outside of the place that they were performing, there was a band that played kind of like a small parade type deal.
Yeah.
And then
glad y'all are here.
The next night, they leave Troy to go back to Rochester, and they actually take a night boat on the Hudson. So, we've had some issues with rivers in the past.
We have had some,
but
some
this
river
time
issues. We're convinced,
they told us what river they went down.
It's the Hudson.
They knew we were going to struggle with that. We're going to jump a little ahead now, because in November of 1850, Maggie actually goes to Troy. She travels to Troy, and she is staying with some friends at Mr. Botton's house.
I would say
How would you
Bhutan.
pronounce that? Bhutan?
Mm-hmm.
Bhutan's house. This is when Maggie is basically attacked, or
someone's out to get her.
Someone's out to get them. They don't quite know who it is, but there is several men that start to follow them when they're out and about, start to basically case the house, watch the house at night when they're there, and then it escalates to where now they're trying to actually take Maggie. So now they start trying to break in the house at night. And thankfully they're prepared. They're aware that this is happening, and so they take every measure to keep these people out of their house. It's getting serious too, because it's not
so
like
wild.
we're just trying to pick a lock and come in, but they're actually using sticks.
They
being
break out
thrown
windows,
through
right?
windows,
Yeah.
and actually some gunfire as well. Stuff is getting real serious, and Mr. Baton decides, like, well, it's a no-brainer. He has to reach out to Leah and say, hey, Maggie's in trouble.
Come get your sister.
You've got to come get her, get her out of this situation.
It was kind of we can't protect her anymore.
Yeah, it's getting overwhelming. It's too much. They got to get her out of Troy. So Leah, on November 17th of 1850, obviously, she heads to Troy, and she's traveling by train, and these men, whoever's behind this, has been watching telegraphs between Mr. Baton and Leah. So back and forth, and so they catch word that there's going to be
Leah's coming.
Yeah, that well, they don't know who it is. They assume it's the mother.
I see.
So they know someone is coming to get Maggie.
Okay.
So what they're going to try to do is intercept that at where there's a train exchange going to Troy. And so they have some men set up to take that train. And upon doing that, Leah transfers to this train. And when she sits down in the train, this gentleman comes into the cart with her and sits down. He's real suspicious. She's picking up vibe. Like, she doesn't know this is happening.
Sure.
But she knows something's not right, the way he's acting. So she gets with the train conductor and has him removed. Well, when they remove the gentleman and take him off the train, that's when they realize we were looking for
An old woman.
And then Leah catches on before they have time to act. So they get kicked off the train, and she takes the train to Troy. And then when she gets to Troy and gets off the train, there's these guys that take her basically forcefully, and she describes them as having guns.
Sure.
And so she's real fearful that she finally got caught.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out when she gets in the carriage, she realizes that these are the good guys. So
they're here to escort her.
They're actually escorting her to the house. At this time now, there's a mob that's desperately trying to get the girls. And so upon arriving, they rush into the house. They get Maggie, and they get her out. And then they flee from Troy.
Back to Rochester, I
Back
assume.
to Rochester. And no, okay, sorry, wrong. They're not going back to Rochester because they have got word from friends in Rochester that there's men hanging out around there casing her place in Rochester.
Huh.
So they go to Albany.
Okay.
Yep. So
Wild.
crazy stuff.
So this is 1850. The girls are having more private seances, and a lot of times during these seances, you develop we, us, people. Sometimes there are familiar spirits that come through, and they are the usher or the master of ceremonies, or they're just this entity that the medium is most comfortable with. And what I think is just great about the Fox sisters is that their familiar spirit was Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to me. There's this South Park episode where they try to start a talent agency, and they're trying to get one of their friends to join the talent agency, and they tell Kenny, go hide off to the side. Call me during the conversation, and I'll act like I'm talking to someone important. And so when they're convincing, they're doing their sales pitch, and they're like, oh, let me take this call. Yes, hello, Abraham Lincoln. And what's it? It's funny to me. But Benjamin Franklin, and this is something that the author of Talking to the Dead states, but she says that Benjamin Franklin is the perfect representative of the other world because he was inventor, trickster, magician, founding father, and diplomat. And it's just those personality traits. There are lots of things said about Benjamin Franklin, that he had women buried in his basement. I don't know anything about that stuff, and we're not going to do a podcast on it.
Yeah.
But, you think of him flying a kite in a thunderstorm and saying a joke every now and then. I guess he also thought farts were real funny. I mean, everybody thinks farts are funny. So,
Yeah.
So I just think it's hilarious that just some old guy is wandering around with these charming young women escorting all these spirits through and knocking on furniture. The Fox sisters are very charming. They're attractive. They're noticing attractive men.
Yeah.
They're getting attention they appreciate from men, and they're getting unwanted attention from men and also wives.
Yeah.
And I made this joke before we were recording, but it's kind of like these women show up and they're like, y'all are doing so good because you're just pretty young women. Essentially the modern term of just calling them sluts, essentially.
Yeah. Well, they're essentially celebrities. Of their time. It's equivalent to like the Kardashians.
Oh, okay.
That form of fame. Like
sure.
where no one's really heard of them, then all of a sudden, boom, it's in your face.
Yeah.
They're like, their name's everywhere. They're
newspapers
like
are picking these stories up.
Their fame is like rocketed.
Yeah.
And so they may explain why there's this mob that is trying to get them.
Sure.
And they don't know why, but it's probably just paparazzi. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So we're going to make the argument that this is the paparazzi. We're coming out here to get to get the juicy tidbits from the other world, from these gals.
If I was going to reference the time with our time, I would say that's how I would see it.
Being harassed by TMZ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call that? What do you call that TV show? Like, I don't know why that's like flew my mind.
Reality television.
Reality television. Yeah. Yes. Anyways, that's where I was going with that.
I see.
But
so newspapers are the reality television of their day.
Yeah.
Sure. So the photography daguerreotypes came to us in 1840s. That's when they're... What? Okay. Excuse me. Our producer has a degree in fine art photography, and she would like to tell me that they're called daguerreotypes, the French pronunciation. Is it French? Daguerreotypes. They came to us in 1840. 1852, there is a portrait made of the Fox sisters, and it is very proper. It's very professional. It is likely the picture you see of them if you Google the Fox sisters.
There's not very many photos of them.
There's not.
Most of them is art, or what do they call that? Wood print, like where
etching.
The etching. Yeah, sorry.
They're etchings. And maybe someone with an art degree or an art history degree needs to tell us, but do you do an etching so you can make prints for a lot of newspapers? Is that why you do that? There you go. So, yes, these illustrations that are showing up in the newspapers. But that first print in 1852, it is described as a saintly picture. It's very proper women. But then there's a different photograph taken by this fella, Thomas Easterly. And it is the sexy one, y'all, because the neckline is a little bit lower on these dresses. You get a hint of collarbone.
That old dog.
Oh, man. And so now the ladies are real mad. That's speculation. I'm sure it didn't help anything. 1852. Kate is 15 and Maggie is 19. They had money and they're hot. They're celebrities. This is happening for these gals.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of suitors. And a lot of times their attractiveness makes things uncomfortable. Why are these ladies' husbands going to go hang out with these other gals in the dark, holding hands? Oh, man. Scandalous.
It is noted that about those kind of situations where they do have friends, close friends in their business that handle the business side.
Of course,
are also
it's very professional.
It's very professional. Yes,
I'm sure everything is on the up and up with all of the spirit wrappings. Nothing sexy going on there. Talking to dead people.
Yeah. And who are we to judge?
Who are we to judge?
Yeah. Everybody got their thing.
I think I read you a passage earlier where it's like these manifestations that are happening in these seances. It's like you can feel a hand touch your arm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it feels like it's electric, whatever that means. It meant something different then. Talk about a hand being cold and clammy, but also could feel like just warm flesh. Mm-hmm. And then would have a participant say, "Well, I want to see you. I want to see that, make us so that we can see the hand." And then there'd be like this shadowy hand that would pass in front of a moonlit window, very spookily.
It's interesting you go into that stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that has been documented and recorded that has happened in certain seances. As the movement goes, of course it grows. It's not just the foxes that are doing some of this.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Some of it's charlatan, some of it's not.
True believers and charlatans alike. Yeah.
It's interesting how the whole seance scene evolves. The Fox sisters are known to be the birth of spiritualism, which is a movement.
Yep.
And spiritualism is communication with the dead.
Sure. We should say spiritualism has a Christian basis. It is based in Christianity.
And a lot of people don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you say that, because there really, if you, that's not really known unless you are doing like we do, where we're reading into it. And there's tons of people that have.
Sure.
But, for people that just know little tidbits of it and stuff, they don't really realize that this was heavily backed. Not backed.
No.
But
its foundation is Christianity.
It's not that these people just were pagans and came in and were like,
Right,
oh, yeah, we're doing this.
Witchcraft.
No,
Devil worship.
it was in a lot of like other books on spiritualism that I've read from that, especially from that time period, from the 1800s. If you read those books, a common theme throughout those books is Christianity. And
sure.
And some of my favorite stuff about spiritualism is like when you pass over or go beyond the veil, you're basically going to a different plane.
Mm-hmm.
They describe it as different planes. There's levels. And their thought is that if you, in this lifetime, once you pass over, that's more like you graduated to a different plane, a higher plane.
Death is step one.
So, yeah, so your time is done on this earth, on this plane, and you're moving to a different plane. What spiritualism has taught me to accept death. A lot of people struggle with that.
Sure.
Some people don't.
Sure.
But I think once I had gotten into this and reading into it and stuff like that, it's really changed my perspective of that time that will ultimately come for all of us.
Of course.
So everybody hates funerals.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a funeral. I mean, it's not a fun experience.
Yeah.
But I really dreaded funerals because it was not so much just because of the person that has passed away, but it's also because of fear of death. It makes you start.
You confront it.
Thinking.
Yeah.
Well, my time's coming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ultimately coming. There's no way around it. And so you get in that mindset and you get really down on yourself. But from reading things and talking about going to different planes and life after death and spirit communication, where that's like proof that there's something on another side, it kind of eases your mind. And
sure.
So when you go into what I'm getting at is going to a funeral now is different than it was years ago.
Yeah. And
I can go and I'm more accepting and not so distraught, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So spiritualism is a unique and healthy, to me,
sure,
thing to. You don't necessarily have to believe in it, but it's interesting to read.
Oh, absolutely.
And so
it is a fascinating perspective.
Yeah.
If you want to go that route, power to you. Awesome. Well, so for next time, I think we're going to have to chat about potential suitors, how that ended up for those gals, which is, spoiler alert, not great. Interpersonal relationships between them, start of the Civil War.
We'll touch base on it, and like you say, we got some important relationships that are notable.
Yeah.
Then we'll lead into the later years of the Fox sisters, which is also fascinating as well.
Yeah.
When their story comes to an end.
Well, it turns out to be family drama. Always ends with family drama.
Yeah, it's always family drama.
I smoked 2 bowls tonight.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Hope y'all enjoyed that smell.
Oh, it was nice.
Good.
And it went perfect with the evening.
Did you smoke 2 cigars tonight, or just
No,
one?
I just went with one. It kind of
didn't burn.
It's a
right?
good cigar. It's like I said at the beginning. It's one of my favorites, but it's not wanting to stay lit tonight, and that's becoming a theme for me. Maybe I'm the problem.
Maybe it's my garage.
The cigar's not the problem. It's not your garage door.
Oh, okay.
It's me. It's all me. Also, one thing to note before we end this as well, because we've gotten some feedback from some people.
We have.
And so that's
feedback.
good. We're always wanting feedback.
Yeah, appreciate our listeners.
A lot of people have noted the locust noise in the
Cicadas,
background.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like we've said, we're in a garage.
Mm-hmm.
Garage door is wide open, so we're getting good old nature in here with us.
Yeah.
Tonight we started a little later than we normally do, so the locusts weren't out as much when we started, but the crickets have been going crazy tonight. And
I'm looking at my producer right now, our producer, to see if... Can you hear any crickets in the microphone? Okay, we got crickets.
So, and listen, these aren't artificial sounds.
That's right. This is all...
We do it all natural here.
That's right.
Yeah.
That vehicle driving by, that is a real vehicle in the street.
Susan, cut that out. I'm just kidding. No, these are authentic noises. And so I have had a few, the reason I'm noting this, I have a reason for this.
Sure.
Is because I have had some criticism on the noise in the background, and it really depends on what you're listening with.
Take your headphones out.
Or you're listening in the car.
It should be organic in your car.
But in the headphones, of course, you're going to hear it clear as far as, oh, that's a locust in the background. But if you're listening to it in a car radio or on the car speakers, I guess is what you'd say, it may sound like I've had some comments that it's editing cuts and stuff, and I'm like, no, you're hearing locusts in the background.
It's
so anyways,
also,
that's why
probably editing.
That's why I noted it in this episode. Is that hey, those are real noises in the background.
They are real noises.
Yeah.
I think somebody said we ought to record in a thunderstorm. Yeah, we'll get right on that. You know.
Susan will be out there with a metal thing, just vroom, vroom, vroom.
Yeah. So the next time there's a thunderstorm warning, I need you to get in your vehicle and get here quick.
You mean like the one coming now?
All right.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you this. Susan puts up with a lot of crap.
I disagree.
Just so the listeners know that she has to painfully listen to us. Then she has to painfully listen to us 50 more times.
Oh, yeah. You guys just have to listen to this once.
Yeah.
And I get tired of listening to this, too. She just does it behind me while I'm trying to play video games. I'm like, turn that crap off.
Yeah. And
I'm kidding. I love this stuff. I think this is great.
Turn that crap off. Who's that guy that has a heavy accent? Oh, yeah.
It's not heavy. I don't hear your accent. They don't know. Nobody knows.
Listen, Tyler, you're from Oklahoma.
I am. I'm going to blow my nose. So there's a podcast I listen to, and it for real is just this dude who sits down in front of his computer. You hear him squeaking in his chair.
Uh-huh.
And then you hear him click, click, click. And like, okay, I got a question here from, oh, okay. And then you hear this number right here. Sinuses. Okay. And then he'll do a crazy voice or something and answer the question.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But I've also heard him like yell at his cats. Like there's no editing at all in it. So I think it's great that we have an editor.
Yeah. I think we're ahead of the game then if that's
and also
out there.
What I'm getting at is if you don't like the sounds in our podcast, there are much worse.
Yeah. Because in reality, I refrain from a lot of noises that could be picked up by this mic.
Sure.
I mean, I've had gas all night. and then there's times that I'm just like...
Oh, that's the other thing. I may have a light sinus infection right now.
Really?
Susan wants me to scoot back because I'm too close to the mic. But you're probably hearing me sniffle and breathe hard all night long.
You know what's sad?
Huh.
What's sad is what you just did. You altered your voice a little bit, but you also got close to the mic.
Uh-huh.
But when we listen to that recording, when she gets done editing it tomorrow, you're still going to sound professional.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's so good at her job.
But also you have that voice, you know. Barry loves your voice.
I don't know Barry.
You should meet him. He's pretty funny.
Should I try reading this again now that I've read it once?
Yeah, could you do it clear this time?
Let's try. And
maybe we could take that little piece and put it in the beginning.
Yeah, this is for Barry. So just paste this into. Can we paste? Yeah, we can paste this into the beginning.
Or if not, just listen to the end, guys.
Oh man, I've been smoking this Cornell and Deal Autumn Evening, and man, it just smells so good. Let me read this bit to you here. Our proprietary red Virginia Cavendish is delicately cased with natural maple, resulting in our best-selling aromatic blend. Autumn Evening's captivatingly nuanced complexity will stimulate the smoker, while those nearby will be entranced by the inviting fragrance.
That's for you, Barry.
Yes. And we said it earlier, since we don't know how to paste earlier in it, but you all were entranced by this fragrance, weren't you?
Dude, it was. And that's me being real.
Smells just like a maple long john.
Okay.
Oh, we can start the ASMR part now.
Yeah.
All right.
From now on, we're going to end all of our shows with creative...
Cigar crinkle ASMR.
Hold on. Oh, shit. Got the mic caught. No, okay. Well, should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up.
Do you think Susan's going to cut, like,
All
of this out and
Yes,
just do the wrap-up part?
We're just entertaining ourselves.
Should
right
we
now,
say
yes.
wrap up? Or let's not say wrap this up, making it very difficult for her to get rid of the awesomeness that we have produced here.
For our producer?
Yeah.
This is excellent content.
This is awesome content.
We're getting a lot of thumbs up.
We're getting a Patreon.
Yeah, send us gifts.
Okay, not really, but well, play us out.
I'm satisfied with that. Play us out.